I was hired to direct a film called Piranha 2. I was hired by a very unscrupulous producer who worked out of Italy, and he put me with an Italian crew who spoke no English, even though I was assured that they would all speak English. And I actually had to learn some Italian very quickly, and I'm talking about in 2 weeks, because that's all the prep time I had, because I was actually replacing someone else. And I was put into an untenable situation, and then fired couple of weeks into the shoot, and the producer took over directing. And it turns out that he had actually done that twice before on his 2 previous films, and that was his modus operandi in order to get the financing and then axe the director. And in the course of throwing me off the movie, he never showed me a foot of the film that I had shot. He held on to the dailies. We were shooting in Jamaica, and I would shoot in Jamaica, the dailies would go to New York, be processed. He'd fly to New York and look at them and not send them back for me to see. So I wasn't even seeing my own film. So he basically came in and said, your stuff doesn't work, doesn't cut together, it's a pile of junk, and you're off the movie. And then he took over the film. And I thought, I really don't, okay, maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I'm just not good. So I went to, a couple of months later, I went to Rome to find out sort of the truth, like what really happened. And he wouldn't show me any of the film. And I had been in Rome prepping the film for a couple of weeks before we went, and I remembered the code to get in, and so I went in and I just ran the film for myself. And it wasn't that bad. Because all I wanted to know was just one simple fact. Could I or could I not do this job? And I made a few changes, before I flew back, which I don't know if they ever caught. I don't know if the editor ever noticed that I actually fixed a couple things. But I had to know whether what they had said was true. So here's a case where everyone around me had basically said, you stink, you suck, you don't know what you're doing. And I accepted it. But then a little voice kept saying, I don't think so. I don't think it could be that bad. I remember doing some pretty cool stuff with the actors in this moment and that moment. And I looked at it, and it was fine. So then I thought, you know what, I actually can do this. And I just fell in with a pack of thieves and wackos here. But I also realized that I was going to have to get busy and create my own thing, that nobody would hire me after that experience. Nobody would hire me and just put me on a film. I'd have to create my own thing and hang on tenaciously to that in order to be able to direct again. And that's why I wrote The Terminator, and I had many, many people trying to buy that script, but I wouldn't sell them. I wouldn't sell the script to them unless I went with it as the director. And of course, that was a turnoff for almost everybody. But we did find one low-budget producer who was willing to make the film, and that was John Daly at Hemdale, and that's how I got my real start.
I'm Cory Hunter. Welcome to another episode, and let's get into it. Tips from directors. Once again, we getting another tip from James Cameron. Pretty much, man, he just gave us a story about a bad experience in terms of a producer who was shiesty. We get those, man. We have to learn who we want to work with. We got to learn how to see the snakes and the wolves in sheep clothing. That's just part of the business, man. Bad experiences is just what it is. We can't let that discourage us. We can't let that make us quit. L's, man, taking losses. These learning experiences, it do cause us to have setbacks. It do mess with our spirit. It do mess with our frame of mind. But it's also necessary because, pressure make diamonds. Voila. As James Cameron learned, the guy was lying. He was talking about his footage. He went because he just had to know. He had to know if he was actually that bad. He went in there, he checked it out, and he realized, no, these shots that I got is actually good. He learned something about himself. He went through the experience, and he realized that, he's worthy. He's capable of doing this. But he also got fire under his feet because he also realized that he can't depend upon certain people for him to attain his goal. So he took his own destiny into his own hands, and now we all know the name of James Cameron. So I think that's just a really dope story to remember. I got a bunch of those stories myself in terms of like people in the business, wolves, snakes, call them whatever you want to call them, who just they're just not moving righteously. We can't let these people discourage us, man. We can't let them win. You have to rage against it, all right? You got to rage against the nonsense, all right? because it's the only way to reach your goal, regardless of what you're going to do, regardless of how much you mastermind it, or whatever the case may be. There's always going to be obstacles, all right? And we can't let those obstacles stop us. And sometimes those obstacles are people who just have really ill intentions and who just see you as nothing else as a pawn. You have to rage against them. You have to rage beyond them to attain and accomplish your goal. That's just what it is. So yeah, when you get into that zone and people's moving funny and shysty, just remember that you're not the only one who experienced the nonsense. That other people also experienced it, and that you are capable and able to overcome. What happens is when people have weight, they want to move it, and sometimes the people who, I guess, in the hierarchy, if they're a little above you, they want to move you as a pawn. You can't let them move you as a pawn, all right? That's why you have to be mindful of the things that you're doing, the routes that you're going. And sometimes it could cause us to hesitate, but we also got to learn to not let it. We got to learn to not hesitate, because when you're worrying about something, you're not executing. And we need to be executing as much as possible, because the competition out there is fierce. All right. So just know that the nonsense is just part of the business, and we just gotta see our ways through. So yeah, man, I think that's a powerful lesson. It's a dope lesson. I'm gonna expand on this later in terms of just giving some of my own stories, but that's for another time. Thank you for joining me. I'm Cory Hunter. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. Thank you, and like always, until next time.